On this week's Gridiron Report, we have the Lions losing in KC, the Tigers losing in Seattle, and some grit of the week. And it's all brought to you by Pins and Aces. Use promo code GRIT for 21% off any product at pinsandaces.com. So let's get into it.
In the heart of the city where the lights grow dim, grit and grind every inch, every rim, from the underdogs rising to the legends that win. It's the Grit Iron Report, let the games begin. Every highlight's a journey, roads paved with fire, sweat, tears, and hustle that never expire. From the rookies on the rise to the old hands retire, Grit Iron is the place for fans to conspire. Hustle on blast, beats thundering loud. Champions are born from the roar of the crowd.
Welcome to the Gridiron Report, your Lions First All Detroit Sports podcast presented by Mic Drop Studios. Today is Wednesday, October 15th, and I know we mentioned it being such a magical time last year because we had all four major sports and our two major colleges playing in the same week. But god damn it, Detroit as a whole got absolutely clobbered. We were outscored 102-45 this week across all four major sports and our two major colleges. We got to be careful what we wish for, because we were expecting such a great week going into all these sports, and I just honestly wish I watched zero sports last week. It was so painful.
God, how dumb are sports, man? How dumb do I feel even putting any kind of effort into watching these teams or giving love to my teams, and then they'll just rip your heart out, man. I mean, it started with the Tigers, just an insane what ended up being a 15 inning game where they rip your heart out in the top half of the inning, and then the defense pulls a double play out of their ass, and you think they have a chance, and it keeps going into the fucking past midnight, and then you get your heart stomped on all over again with just a excruciating loss there, and then you get back up. Michigan State on Saturday, at least they have a get right game. UCLA at home, homecoming. Guess again, idiot. They get stomped on at home, and it's just a dumpster fire of a program. And then, well, you know what, Kyle? We got Sunday night. We got the Lions. At least we have the Lions. And lo and behold, the Lions get screwed left and right. They can't execute. Just one thing after another. They get shit pumped by Kansas City, like probably the evil empire, the worst. Everyone's least favorite team in the entire league. Lions get shit canned. So yeah, dude, what an abysmal sports weekend.
It was so brutal because we stayed up so late. Obviously, you're in a different time zone than us, but like here in Detroit, we stayed up till 1:30, watched the Tigers lose. We then got up at 5 a.m. to go tailgate Michigan State, get up there on campus, got a solid maybe 3 hours of sleep, and then just to watch them both get destroyed. And like you said, you sprinkle in a little bit of the Red Wings in there getting destroyed in their opener against Montreal, and they had a few wins. But we're going to break all these games down. We'll break down the Lions game against the Chiefs. We'll break down the preview with the upcoming Buccaneers game on I believe that's Monday night, this upcoming Monday. And then we'll break down the Tigers, their whole situation, the way their season ended, their postseason presser. We unfortunately just don't have time to get into Michigan State, even though there's plenty to talk about both those two teams. But we're gonna focus just on the main four major sports. But let's start with the Lions. Lions 17, Chiefs 30, Sunday night, like you mentioned. Overall thoughts on this one, on this just brutal loss?
Yeah, man, I have so many thoughts, and luckily had a full day to just completely digest this. 2 days actually. Firstly, that first drive, the Lions' first drive, like they were just cooking down the field, and I'm thinking this might be a beatdown. And I just loved what I saw. 15 plays, 61 yards, 9 minutes and 39 seconds of game time, taking off for the first drive of the game, capped off with a brilliant trick play. 4th and 1, touchdown. David Montgomery throwing the ball to Jared Goff until it wasn't. Until the refs huddled a full minute after the Lions had already celebrated. And right after the announcers are telling you in your ear, this is not a reviewable foul. And then the message comes from New York, and the Lions are flagged. And, the call was wrong. Jared said it after in the presser that, he was never actually under center. So, once again, I don't know if it's the Lions getting a little bit too cute with their trick plays. They're fooling these refs, but you know what? I'm not even going to go there. These refs are fucking assholes. They're morons. And so, of course, the Lions, they settle for a field goal. Casey on the ensuing drive, takes it down for a touchdown, right? And then, there's so much that happened in this game, but I just want to focus on the refs just a little bit more, man. Just a pass in the third quarter to Kelsey that the ball was just resting on the ground, and somehow it was called a catch on the field, even though it's clearly not even a catch live. They somehow don't review it. Chiefs scramble to the line of scrimmage. Not only do they get the playoff, they rip off like a 20-yard gain, end up scoring a touchdown on that drive. So, a number of blatant holds that were not called. By the way, the Chiefs were called for 0 penalties in this game. The amount of snaps that they ran, offense and defense, that it actually only happened once in the last 70 years that a team was not flagged when they ran that many plays. So, man, just one thing after another. And again, the Lions also had plays where they didn't execute, but I just want to get on my soapbox for a second and say this is one of the worst officiated games that I've ever seen in my life, and fuck the Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean, you had to know, and I'm not joking when I say this. Like, it was a talk all in Detroit this week about like you will see something that's like fishy, something that doesn't smell great in this game, because simply for the fact of the matter, because the Jaguars beat the Chiefs last week, so maybe we can actually blame the Jaguars because the Chiefs lost last week. Like, the NFL makes so much more money when the Chiefs aren't a terrible team. They needed to win this game. It almost would put them out of playoff contention, if not that they're still not out of playoff contention, but like, the NFL needed them to win. So you knew flat out that there was going to be some mysterious things, stuff just not going our way naturally. It was pretty bad. I mean, for the last few weeks, you mentioned the Lions maybe getting a little bit too cute. I remember we ran a trick play last week or 2 weeks ago, and there was a little bit of discussion online on whether the play was legal or not. I don't remember exactly what it ended up being, but there's some people online that were saying, well, it wasn't legal because of this reason, that reason, whatever. So maybe they are getting a little bit too cute, but I mean, you can't call that after a full minute. I mean, everyone's on the sideline, not reviewable, like you said. It was brutal. The Kelsey non overturn call. Not only did they, like you mentioned, get to the line, get the playoff real quickly and march down and score real quickly, we got called for a penalty because they were going so fast. We had 12 guys on the field, so even if their play didn't work and they weren't able to rip off a 20-yard run or whatever, they got to decline a penalty against us. So it was a double whammy. It was brutal. I mean, you can say that all you want. You knew it was going to happen though. But like you mentioned it there at the end, the Lions just did not execute. And let's go to just the offense in general, because like, you knew the Lions weren't going to go 16-1. Like, we had our first terrible game of the year against the Packers. You knew we weren't going to win the rest of this, the rest of the season out. And so like, I'm not so upset with like just the losing the game. We knew this gauntlet of, 3 or 4 games was going to be brutal. And we're still kind of on track, and I think we're going to be pretty happy when we come out of it, because we were able to steal one against the Ravens, even though they ended up seemed like they're just absolute trash. But like, the offense didn't execute. There's like 2 or 3 plays in which you take those plays away, or maybe they go the other way. This is a completely different game. I mean, on offense, we went 0 for 2 on 4th downs, and one of them was it could have been a better ball thrown, but Jared Goff threw an underhand pass to Amon-Ra St. Brown, and just a really uncharacteristic catch that he's going to make 9 times out of 10. It was just really unfortunate. It happened on 4th down. I mean, you mentioned the play on the goal line, that the trick play that we ended up coming away with just a field goal. So like, there was a few plays, a different outcome from those few plays. Maybe we come away with the win here, but you said it perfectly. Like, outside the refs, which was fucking terrible, we just didn't execute as much as we really needed to.
Yeah, and it's a Lions team where we know that they can execute. They're an extremely disciplined team, one of the most disciplined teams in the NFL. And so it was surprising to see a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown, your surest hand, probably the surest hands in the entire league. I think the guy had not dropped a ball in over a year. So yeah, to see him drop that ball, I think you mentioned 9 times out of 10 he catches that. I think he probably catches that about 98 times out of 100. He's that sure-handed. So to see him drop that ball in one of the biggest moments of the first half there, that was gigantic. If they make that play, I do think they score on that drive. They're just It seems like there was so much momentum, and it seemed like once the Lions lost momentum there in that first half, they never quite got it again. I thought that the run game was not good enough. The offensive line was not good enough. Gibbs had 17 carries for 68 yards. That's less than 4 yards a carry. Monty was great when he had the ball, but just 4 carries for 24 yards. So yeah, I thought that they couldn't quite do enough on the ground. Through the air, Jared was, fine. He was good, not great. Through a couple nice touchdowns. I think he went for just over 200 yards, but overall not fantastic there. But yeah, I just felt like from a momentum standpoint, once they kind of couldn't capitalize in that first half, Chiefs go down there and score, right at the end of half, and they rip off another touchdown drive at the beginning of the second half. I thought that it was too much to overcome there.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Goff. Goff wasn't bad at anything. He was 23 for 29, 203 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jimo, I thought like a combination outside of the Amon-Ra drop, which we just mentioned is uncharacteristic, it was just terrible timing. Like of all the drops that he never has drops. So like of all the times to finally have one on a fourth down and it gets a big game like that, that does suck. But like JMO, Laporta, and Amon-Ra St. Brown were all fantastic. They all had great games. Looking at their overall receiving yards in the game, you had Jameson finally kind of popped for 66 yards. You had Sam Laporta with 55 yards, Amon-Ra St. Brown with 45 yards, Laporta and JMO both with a touchdown. So they were all pretty good. The offensive line, you mentioned the running game. Running game was not good. They just had a combined 89 yards from Gibbs and Monty, like you said. But the offensive line in general, we only gave up 1 sack, and it's not a fantastic Chiefs defense, but like Chris Jones is still out there. He's still a menace, and I think he only had 1 sack on the year so far, but they only gave up 1 sack. It was just weird that like I thought a week after giving Johnny Morton his flowers, and we even had a clip posted to TikTok that was queued up to post. I think it was like yesterday morning, like after the game, and it was talking about how Johnny Morton it was in his bag and like we're setting all these records, and then he just had an absolute dud of a game script. Like I thought all of his play calls were just not exactly what we need. We were in the red zone twice and we went 1 for 2. Like how do you expect to win a game when you only make your way to the red zone twice and you don't even convert on one of them? And now granted that was obviously the field goal we came away with, but like I thought the play call was just terrible. I hated it from Johnny Morton.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back because I don't remember necessarily like watching the game and thinking, oh, I hate the play call. It was more just like they couldn't get a groove. And I thought that they were more, not because of the play call, but just because of just lack of execution. I thought that the team was never in a groove the entire game. There was even like, I noticed there was like shots on the sidelines when the Lions offense was on the sidelines. And I don't know, St. Brown he looked a little defeated. Granted, they were showing him a lot after he already, had that big drop in the first half. So I don't know, man. It seemed like there was something just not quite right about the team, and obviously they get down and then it's a game script. They're tossing the ball more. They're not running the ball as much, and that obviously doesn't favor the Lions offense. I was like raging hard when Collinsworth was saying like, yeah, this Lions team struggles to throw the ball. Like I'm like, dude, like this team is one of the best offenses in the league. They don't struggle to throw the ball. Just because they can't establish a play action pass. But yeah, I don't know, man. Just overall offense, just they could be better for sure. I will say though, you mentioned the JMO and the Laporta touchdowns. I mean, talk about 2 beautiful touchdowns. Like JMO just flying across the field, kind of pinballing off like 2 different defenders. I thought like I was like, oh, this is an amazing play. I thought there was no way he was going to score, and the next thing I know, like I literally blinked and he's in the end zone because he pinballed off a couple defenders. So that was amazing. The Laporta catch, I don't know how it's possible. I really don't. I mean, Goff threw a laser beam in there, so it was an incredible throw to a guy who was very much blanketed, covered. Yeah, I mean, you could see it in Jared Goff's face. There was an awesome like slow motion on his face where he's just like, yeah, that was a fucking ridiculous catch.
Not only just to catch the ball, but then also to get his feet in bounds. Like he like went backwards and like toe tapped his feet in.
Yeah.
It was both insane catches. It was like, is that Isaac Tesla out there, or is that Sam Laporta? Like I feel like only Isaac has made catches like that this year. So yeah, they were both great. I agree with you. I just think like there was no groove. They showed the sideline a lot, and like heads were down. Maybe they're just collectively all sick. They all got the flu, and they didn't want to be there. They want to just come home, and that's what I'm gonna kind of hang my hat on. That was kind of the case, because that was it just was uncharacteristic of them. And again, we were not going to go 16-1 the entire season. Like we knew losses were going to come. We were going to take it. I wish it was a little more competitive offensively. Unfortunately they just weren't able to do that. But I'm okay with like the loss. It's just really, like you said, the lack of a groove and how we lost it. So offensively, not great. What do you think like the defensive side? Because I have my thoughts defensively. Going to the defensive side, first overall thoughts of the defense played.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think the defense played bad, especially considering that this secondary is so banged up. Obviously without your top 2 cornerbacks, I thought that they did just enough to give the offense a chance of winning that game. I thought the defense by no means was great, and I could see exactly why they lost the game. But I don't really put all of it on the defense. I think it was definitely a joint effort there. But I like the pressure they were getting on Mahomes. 3 sacks, forced fumble. It did seem like Mahomes was uncomfortable pretty often in the pocket. And you can also see that the Chiefs they had a game plan for Aiden Hutchinson, and it didn't always work. I mean, he was fighting through double teams. He's an absolute menace. So there's only so much you can do to stop Hutch. But yeah, I mean, I didn't think they played bad. I thought Mahomes, he was spreading the ball out, obviously, and there were times where the secondary was getting gutted, but I mean, overall, you look at Mahomes' numbers, and it wasn't like he just completely carved us up. So, um, I thought that there was definitely some bend not breaks, and yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of people look at that game, they're like, oh, the defense got torched, but given what they had, with injuries, even Kirby Joseph went out, then came back in. They gave him some happy juice or something because he was looking great when he came back in. But I didn't think the defense played horrible.
That's exactly my thoughts on it. Like you look at the score and you say 30 points. You two trains of thought, right? You say 30 points, like, oh, they got torched. But then you see 30 points against the Chiefs, and you're like, oh, okay, like that's the Chiefs. I think if we have any sort of real offensive groove, offensive mojo in this game, that helps the defense so much. And that like that 30 points would, if we had any sort of offense, would have dropped down, and they would have looked a lot. The final score would have looked a lot better. Just looking at their stat score, the stat sheet of the defense. I mean, for the guys we had out there, they played pretty damn well. We had tackles from, let me know if you've ever heard of any of these guys: Arthur Maulet, Tyler Lacey, Jack Fox had a tackle. Obviously, we know who Jack Fox is.
Damn.
Thomas Harper. I mean, these are guys that are pulling off the street, and they registered tackles in this game. So the defense as a whole, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Like, they played well given the injuries, given the offense doing them no favors. You mentioned they having a pretty good game plan against Hutch. Obviously, Hutch still had his sack. He had that. You mentioned it. Brew brought up like last week or 2 weeks ago how he's just able to. He doesn't even go for the sacks anymore. He's just straight up going for the ball, which is, I love that it's kind of becoming his signature thing because he is so good at it. He had a sack. Jack Campbell had a sack. Al-Quidi Muhammad had another sack. So, I mean, I like what I saw from the offense as well, or from the defense as well. But then you look at our red zone numbers, saying again we were 1 for 2 in the red zone. The Chiefs were 4 for 6. So I don't know what's more concerning, the fact that they were able to punch it in 4 different times, or that they find themselves in the red zone 6 whole times. Like it's not conducive to a good defensive outing when you're putting on your heels so often by the offense having absolutely no drive, no emotion or anything. So I agree with you. I liked pretty much what I saw from the defense. Obviously, we had the Brian Branch stuff, which we can get into here in a minute. But I agree with you. I liked, for the most part, what I saw from the defense, given what they were given.
Yeah, and I think I alluded to it a little bit earlier, but really, what really went wrong with this game was the crucial drive in the end of the first half and then the beginning of the second half. So, a touchdown, you give up a touchdown to end the half. That's huge for momentum. And then the Chiefs, receiving the ball second half, and they march right down and score another touchdown. And I mean, at that point, just there was the Lions were not able to recapture that momentum there. So that was a huge swing. But I think like you said, the Lions offense just did us no favors. For a defense that is so banged up, I think that if you're an offense and you actually are, knock on wood, without a lot of injuries. I mean, a few injuries to the offensive line, but your skill positions are all there. I think that you really have to pick up the slack, knowing that this Lions defense is battered, and they've already picked up some injuries, and they had some injuries rolling into the season as well. So. It's just you need more out of the offense if you want to win that game at Arrowhead in a game where obviously you're not going to get any favors from the refs. Now, obviously, the refs did way more than that, but yeah, you got to be better on offense. I think that's absolutely the reason why they lost this game.
Yeah. So the other thing that was a big story coming from this game was the Brian Branch thing. So let's get into that for a little bit. So if you haven't seen the play, if you didn't watch the end of the game, it was getting real chippy. You already mentioned the lack of calls, how the Chiefs were kind of getting away with a bunch of things. They were playing a little bit dirty, just doing normal Chiefs things that I'm sure happens on every football team, every football game that happens. It's just kind of a giant spotlight because the Chiefs get away with it so often. So a lot of frustration, and on top of that, we were playing so terribly, so the players were frustrated. But at the end of the game, Juju Smith-Schuster, actually, I would even say before the end of the game, Patrick Mahomes was talking so much shit to our players. There was one play where he rushed in for a touchdown, and he threw the ball right at, I think it was Brian Branch or someone, and pointed at him.
It was
9
Branch.
times out of 10, you're getting a taunting call for that. And I don't agree with it. I hate that call. I think you should be able to, stand, 10 toes down and talk some shit. But 9 times out of 10, you're getting a taunting call for that. It's 15 yards. It just happened to Cam Scatterbo and the Giants the other day. But when it's Patrick Mahomes, he can obviously do it because he's Patrick Mahomes. So there was a lot bubbling up in this game, the frustration of not playing well. With 2 minutes left, Juju Smith-Schuster came up and just blindside blocked Brian Branch in the back. Really, I mean, if you see the play, he threw him to the ground. It was a pretty aggressive block. Really kind of
An
cheap shot.
illegal block. That's a block that you would throw a flag on. It was with 3 minutes and 20 seconds left. So I mean,
Yeah,
at that point, I think the Chiefs are up 2 scores, but still, like, you never know what's going to happen, right? And
should have been
yeah, it was a
called.
clear blindside block in the back, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, should have been called. Another thing they got away with, and Brian's a hothead. He has some boneheaded plays. What was it? The Packers game. He threw a helmet or threw a shoe or whatever it was that he got called. He got flagged for. So something like that. It just boiled over for him. The moment the game ended, he beelined it right for Juju Smith-Schuster. Went right up to him, and they started talking shit immediately. One thing led to another. Brian threw an open hand punch, slap, whatever you want to call it, to the face of Juju. Put him on his ass. Actually ended up hitting his nose, and his nose started bleeding. And a huge scuffle kind of ensued. People got pulled apart. I just want to say 2 things. One, Brian Branch, you can't do that. I don't care. And Dan Campbell came out right after the game and said as much. You can't do that. You got to keep your emotions in check. I get what happened. We just went over like the reasons why this happened. I get it, but you're a grown ass adult. You can't do that. And we'll get into the Bucs here in a few minutes, if they weren't down with so many injuries on the offensive side and we really, really, really needed Brian Branch, I would be really, really furious. You can't do that. But at the same time, I think the refs opened this up to this a little bit just by letting the game go as it did. And even looking at when the Chargers played the Chiefs a few weeks ago, Tart, I forget his last name, Tart did the same exact thing, open hand slap punch right to the face of Travis Kelce, and he got flagged for it and everything, but he wasn't suspended. Brian Branch obviously got a suspension for next week. You can't let that happen, but I do get it. I do get where he was coming from with that hit.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's like he's getting suspended because the game's already over, so
I think that's what it
couldn't
was,
flag
yeah.
him. So the NFL's like, oh fuck, we got to do something to it. But
Yeah.
I think I'm in a bit of a different camp, man. Like, fuck it. I'm fine with it because I hate the Chiefs so much. Juju's being a little bitch, man. I mean, you hit Brian
nobody.
Branch in the back when you're already up 2 scores. Don't get flagged for it, obviously, because you're the Chiefs. Like, dude, fuck it, man. Branch, not only did he slap him in the face, that he ragdolled him afterwards too. And the funniest thing was, Juju immediately flops to the ground and then probably realizes after a half second, oh shit, the game's over. I don't need to flop for this call. I'm actually gonna stand up. Oh, but I'm still a little bitch. And Branch just ragdolled him after. And then obviously it started like a little scuffle, little brawl there. So yes, do I think it's a good look? No. I mean, we got our asses kicked on the field and then now we're fighting after the game's over. But, in this scenario, like, I mean, I totally see why Branch did it. I mean, it's just, emotions boil over. It sucks that he's gone against the Bucs. I think that the Bucs are a great team. We'll get into that breakdown after this, but fuck it, man, dude. This is how much I hate the Chiefs. Like, I'm totally fine with Brian Branch just like going out and I kind of wish it was Mahomes, man. I'm not even gonna lie, dude. I hate that dude so fucking.
As much as I hate to admit it, I do agree with you in the sense that, like I mentioned, Mahomes had that play where he ran in for the touchdown, immediately threw the ball at our guy, was pointing at him, talking shit, and then a few plays later, Hutch had a play which he kind of came around the backside and went up and under, and Mahomes got the ball out, and Hutch hit him pretty late. Hutch got flagged for roughing the passer. It was actually a pretty brutal call because it was a 3rd down, prolonged the drive. I think they ended up scoring on it. But like Mahomes, they showed Mahomes and he was like yelling at Hutch, being like, what the fuck? You can read his lips. He's like, what the fuck are you doing? And it's like, don't be a little bitch when that happens, but then go talk your shit and then be like, what is going on? Like, you don't get to pick and choose. And I think that's why people don't like Mahomes, is because he picks and chooses. He's a big tough man when he can be and when he knows he's got the ref in his pocket. But then when it comes to being physical and stuff, he usually is on the other side of that. So like, I get what you're saying. If it's any other team, I'm sure you probably would be on my side. Like, you can't let that happen. You got to be a little bit better than that. But because it's the Chiefs, and I think 30 other teams are kind of with us with the Brian Branch stuff. I've seen people online. I think Booger said it best. He's like, you can't let this. I'm not condoning this, but I get it. And it's like, okay. I mean, people understand where our frustration was, and nothing will happen of this. Nothing will come of it. But like, I hope the NFL sees this and is like, we need to change it. Like I said, the refs kind of opened this up. They were the ones who officiated the game this way and got it out of control. And that they didn't make us play poorly, but that just happened to compound on top of us playing poorly and kind of let frustrations bubble up. So yeah, it's not a good look, but I get it. It's unfortunate that he's going to be out next week. I wish it was Kirby who was out next week, because Kirby, like you mentioned, got injured in this game, came back, played actually pretty decent. But like, I wish it was Kirby who had his built-in week off as opposed to Brian. But I know Brian's dealing with some injuries as well, so I'm sure he's going to use the week to rest up and be ready for the week after. But
yeah, and dude, I think enough is enough, man. Like, this isn't something where, like, yeah, teams are bitching about the Chiefs getting calls because they win games. Obviously, they do win games. And they win games, in spite of any calls that they might get. I do get that they're a great team, but like it's not like people are just bitching for the sake of it. Like there was actually data and studies behind it. Like the University of Texas El Paso just concluded a study where they analyzed I think it was more than 13,000 NFL games in the last decade, and basically concluded that the Chiefs benefit more from penalties called against opposing defenses, so like PIs, defensive holdings, roughing the passers, things like that. They benefit more than any other team in the league, and much more often than what would be expected, an expected outcome based on patterns. So there's just data out there that and we don't know why it is. It could be. It's probably money. It's probably the NFL knowing that the Chiefs are major revenue earners. They're a huge brand in the league. Obviously, they win a lot. It could be subliminal, subconscious biases too from the refs. It might not be anything the league is telling them to do, but over this basically decade of dominance, like they're just getting so many more calls, and it's helping them win. Like these defensive pass interferences where they get 40 yards, like it's certainly helping the Chiefs win. So yeah, man, people are sick of it, man, and I hope that something changes. Something needs to change.
Yeah, the last thing I'll say is I think I saw that same study that you were mentioning, and one thing that stuck out to me was that most of the calls that they're getting that is in favor of them more so than anyone else are all subjective calls. So it's not like it's not the formation calls or the 12 men on the field where it's like it either is or isn't. It's a lot of the subjective things where like I thought, or quote unquote being the refs, I thought he was a little handsy on that pass or whatever. It's all subjective things that the refs are making opinionated calls on. And so I mean, yeah, I'm not a conspiracy guy, so I have a hard time believing that it's like the NFL. Well, I do think maybe they think this. I don't think they're actually calling in like they're saying like, hey, we need the Chiefs to play really well, so make sure you make those calls. I have a hard time believing that, but I definitely think, like you mentioned, it's a little bit of a subconscious bias between because they're great guys, they're great teams. A lot of these refs have been with these guys, the Chiefs team, in this dynasty for a long time. Yeah, I think that was a good rant session. I'm sure we'll get a few good clips out of that, and we can post on TikTok and get Chiefs fans all mad about it and whatever. But it had to be said, and we're not the only ones. Like I said, I think there's 30 other teams in the NFL who feel the exact same way as us.
Right.
All right. So let's actually go to a quick break, and then when we come back, we will be breaking down the Lions' upcoming Monday night. I think it's Monday night, right? Monday night matchup against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. All right, we are back. Let's break down the Lions' upcoming game at home versus the Buccaneers. A game that on paper I think is a little bit scary. I love the Buccaneers. I'll get into my thoughts on them in a second, but maybe not as bad because of some injuries the Buccaneers are currently going through. Obviously, they might be saying the same thing against us right now. But let's start it out with our favorite game, Kyle. Guess the line, Lions versus Buccaneers on Monday night.
This one's a bit hard for me for a couple different reasons. Like one, the Bucs are so banged up right now. They're missing like their best 4 offensive weapons. So I don't know how much Vegas is factoring that in. I have no idea how to factor it myself, but I think that it's obviously coming into play. But at the same time, yeah, Lions coming off a big loss. They are at home. Lions are a little banged up too. No Brian Branch now, maybe no Kirby Joseph. I don't know. I think the Lions are going to be favored. I feel like it might be close. I'm gonna go Lions minus 2.5.
Yeah, this is a tough one, like you said, because of all the injuries on both sides. You kind of just have to weigh the gravity of said injuries, and then at the same time, who's going to be playing, we still really don't know. But right now, Vegas has the Lions at minus 5.5, so they are not taking much into consideration with those injuries. And it could be a combination of, again, our injuries aren't as bad as theirs, or our injuries aren't as important as theirs, or it's at home, it's at Ford Field for us, or we're coming off of a pretty brutal loss that we're going to be really angry about. It could be just a combination of everything, but Vegas has us a little bit more of a favor. It's at Detroit minus 5.5.
Wow, that's surprising to me based on my guess, but I don't know, man. I think that's probably too many points. Even the Bucs, even without their weapons, like, I mean, it's obviously any given Sunday, any given Monday in this case, and I think Baker's so fucking good, man. He's playing so well this year, like, fringe MVP caliber in my opinion. So 5.5 is a ton. If I were a betting man, I would be looking at that 5.5 and thinking that's pretty juicy.
Yeah, I don't know if I can pull against us, but so the injuries the Buccaneers have, You have Bucky Irving, their starting running back. He's doubtful. I think reports are he's not. These guys that are all doubtful are not going to play. You have Bucky Irving, who's expected to be out. Chris Godwin, one of the star receivers, expected to be out. Mike Evans, their star receiver, future Hall of Famer, he's expected to be out. Emeka Ibuka, their rookie phenom receiver, is questionable. He's, I think, also expected to be out. And those are just the guys that just kind of went out over the last few weeks. They've already had a plethora of guys that have been ruled out for the rest of the year. You have Jalen McMillan, their like second or third year receiver, he's still out. You had a whole bunch of offensive linemen who were placed in IR for multiple weeks here. So Tampa Bay is as banged up as anyone. And I think if a healthy Tampa Bay team, I would hate to play them because I said it before. Like Baker is a Detroit Lion through and through. Like we love Jared Goff. Jared Goff is our guy. We're the team for Jared Goff, but like if we didn't have Jared Goff, Baker would be absolutely the perfect QB here in Detroit. He's tough. He can scramble with his legs. He's playing, like you mentioned, at like an MVP status level. Like Baker is that guy that I would love here in Detroit. So I just hate going up against him, especially in Detroit. I want to root for Baker, and I can't against this week, but without his weapons, I kind of get the 5.5.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I guess just like, diving in a little bit deeper into the Lions offense. Just looking at this Bucs defense right now. They're pretty average. They rank 14th overall in the NFL. They give up 320 yards per game. They've given up 17 scores on the season. They've been in a few shootouts, a few dogfights, where their defense has, given up some points and been susceptible. So I do think this is a get right game for the Lions offense. Coming off of a game against the Chiefs where you didn't execute, you got your ass kicked. Now you're going home. You really have to get right, especially given that you're going into a bye after this week. So this is really, a great way to recapture momentum, season momentum, going into this bye, and then a pretty tough schedule after that. This is a must win, but I do think this is one where, get right game, especially for the Lions offense, knowing that like of the four, groups, Lions offense, defense, Bucs offense, defense, I think that your biggest advantage is going to be, Lions offense versus this Bucs defense, just given that, the Lions are actually the ones that are healthy. Bucs offense is not healthy. So I think if you score points, you're going to win this game. Haven't seen the over under. I do think points are probably going to be scored in this game. I know we said that, for the Chiefs game as well. That didn't really come to fruition, but I think that points are going to be plentiful. I think the Lions offense is just going to get it done. They're going to be better.
Yeah, so the over-under is 52.5. You mentioned, their defense, they got Big Vita Vea, the monster of a human up front. It makes it difficult for teams to run against. Tampa Bay is 5th in the NFL in rushing yards allowed with 88.2. So it might be a little bit difficult for the running backs room and from the big boys up front to make some holes. But I mean, we mentioned their injuries. They're still injured on the defensive line. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are. So it'll be difficult. Vita Vea makes it difficult to run the ball against, but I think they're susceptible to the pass. I'm just pulling up some numbers here on how they perform against the pass. But the other thing, as we're talking about the injuries and how they have so many, we have a lack of Miles Frazier expected to maybe possibly be back this week. If not, it could be after the bye. But he's the rookie offensive lineman who's expected to be rotating in, providing some reps there. He's expected to possibly be back this week. So as they are getting unhealthy and not able to go, we're getting a little bit healthier. So it's going to be kind of tough sledding for the running backs room a little bit, but let me just pull up real quick.
Yeah, Bucs. I have it up. Bucs defense, 21st in the league in defensive. In passing defense. So looks like about 231 yards per game. Only 10 touchdowns given up through the air, so that's not horrible. I think the Lions have actually given up maybe 13, but as far as yards per game, 21st in the league. So they're nothing special there.
You know what's crazy though, just looking at this? So 21st in the league with 231 average per game. At home, they're giving up 192 passing yards per game. Away, they're giving up 270 passing yards per game.
Wow.
So that could very well just be who they played away in their schedule. But that's a lot more per game they're giving up in away games. And that's just not necessarily Jared's bag. He's usually, I don't know what he's averaging this year. It's probably around like the 230. He's probably not averaging the 270, pushing 300. But we're going to have to, because we're going to have to kind of run away from Vita Vea, for no pun intended. But yeah, we want to jump over to the defensive side here?
Yeah, just... really just defense in general. I'm looking at the Bucs offense. We said it, they're incredibly banged up. I think that If you make Baker one-dimensional, you stop the run game, and I think it should be pretty easy for this Lions defense to stop the run. Lions defense already great at stopping the run, right? They're I believe they are top 10 in the league in that department. They are 11th actually, so they give up 95 yards per game on the ground. So not bad at all. I think that without Bucky Irving, I know the Bucks, they probably have another injury to that running back room that is just escaping me right now, but yeah, you're trotting out Rashad White, the likes of it. I mean, it's just not a ton of talent there without Bucky, who is very very good. So yeah, glad we're not seeing him on Monday. But yeah, you make Baker one dimensional, make him throw to who, right? Like I mean, the Bucks are without their three best receiving options too. So yeah, basically you make them throw the ball, and I think that our depleted defensive cornerbacks and now safeties with the Brian Branch injury, I think that they're still going to have success because you're guarding twos and threes instead of the number ones on the Bucks.
Yeah, and it is the Lions are hopeful to get Aleem McNeil back this week. If I'm being honest, maybe because of the Brian Branch stuff now, you might want to push him back. But like if the Branch was playing, we were healthy, you would just let Aleem go into the bye week and come back after the bye. But it does sound like Aleem is trying to make it back for this week. We thought maybe he'd come back last week. Obviously, he didn't make it, and then this week it's expected he might be able to go. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Baker is fantastic at keeping plays alive. I feel like we say this every single week. Maybe just QBs. If you have success in the NFL, you are good at keeping plays alive. Because Baker does that too. He's able to keep a play alive, scramble for 10, 15 yards, lay a hit, take a hit, jump up, talk some shit. That's why we love him. That's why I love him here in Detroit. So if you are able to keep him one dimensional, have maybe a linebacker kind of just watching him, making sure he doesn't escape the pocket very much. Yeah, I think we're going to be okay. I don't as we're talking about this. I do feel comfortable about the 5.5 because, like you said, I'm not sure who Baker's going to be throwing to. It's going to be a lot of work for Rashad White, so I think we're going to be able to eat up front. And I'm hopefully we can come away with like a healthy game and get into the bye and kind of lick our wounds and come back healthy after the bye.
Yeah, and dude, if the only thing that scares me, man, like if anyone's capable of going into Detroit and winning this game without like any supporting cast possible, like it's a guy like Baker Mayfield, man.
Yep.
You mentioned it a bunch of times, but he's such a gamer. He's always going to give it his all. I mean, it doesn't matter if the odds are stacked against him. Like the odds have been stacked against him his entire football career, like dating back to high school and like not getting any offers and walking on at Texas, losing the starting job to Mahomes, then going over to OU, becoming a Heisman. Like just everything's been stacked against him. Being cast away by the Brownies after leading them to a playoff win or a playoff appearance. Cast away by a couple other teams, and then getting that 1 year prove it deal with the Bucks. So it's an awesome story, man. And you love to root for the guy. You hate playing him because he's going to give it his all, and he's going to work that Baker magic. So I do think that the Lions had the upper hand. Bucks are banged up, but you never know, man. And again, it's any given Monday. Like so, I think this is going to be closer than people think. I really do think that 5.5 number is probably a bit too high. I don't know. That's my gut feeling.
Yeah, I unintentionally made this a little bit of a Baker fest. We just love the guy. He just fits grit. So
yeah, we gotta stop sucking him off now. We're about to play him, but
yeah, no more talking about Baker. Let's get into some between the lines, and then we'll get into our predictions. You got a between the lines you want to go with?
Yeah, so I will go a Lions offensive line that struggled to run the ball against the Chiefs. I want to see my between the lines is going to be our offensive line versus specifically Vita Vea. Just because he is so good at clogging up, that A gap, the B gaps at times, and yeah, just really making it hard on opposing offenses. So yeah, there's no secret that the Bucks have a very good rushing defense, giving up under 90 yards a game. I've only given up 5 touchdowns on the ground, so that's pretty good on that mark too. So I would love to see what this Lions offensive line has. I mean, if they're up to the task, going against Vita Vea and creating some holes for Gibbs and Montgomery, or maybe Johnny Morton is scheming up more outside zones to kind of run the ball away from Vita Vea. I'm not really sure, but yeah, I'm keen to see on Monday.
Yeah, I want to go. I originally had in mind the matchup I'm looking to see with between the Lions was going to be our linebackers versing and watching a scrambling Baker. Like I said, so many times we've seen where the Buccaneers are going down trying to win a game with a minute and a half left. No one's up and downfield. Baker's able to scramble, get 10 yards, pick up the first down, take a hit, like we said, cheer up the crowd and stuff like that. But we talked a lot about Baker, and I don't want to keep gassing the guy up. So I'm gonna double down on what you said. I want to see what the running backs can do against a really stout defensive line, like you said with Vita, and just being able to hopefully get some things going. I know Dan Campbell said this past week he wants to get David Montgomery more pieces. I don't remember how he worded it, like more pieces of the rushing pie or something like that. Meaning he wants to get David Montgomery more touches, which makes sense. He wasn't very much used against the Chiefs last week. So I want to see what David Montgomery specifically can do against this Vita Vea led defensive line. So I'm going to double down with you on that one and not give it to my original Baker scrambling versus linebackers, because we talked enough about Baker and I'm done gassing the guy up.
Yeah, I like it, man. I feel like, yeah, I don't know, maybe this might not be true, but it's my perception, at least right now, is that our running game just hasn't quite clicked in a little bit. So I want to see like a big game out of Gibbs, big game out of Montgomery, and yeah, it's probably just recency bias from this last game against the Chiefs. But yeah, we need more out of them. It's one of our best cores. Yeah, and they didn't get it done. So yeah, would love to see more out of them.
All right, so before we jump into some Tigers talk, prediction, real quick, give us your prediction for this game, score wise.
Yeah, it's gonna be a Lions dub. Get right game. Going into the bye week, I'm gonna say, yeah, I do think it's gonna be close. Lions 31, Bucks 27.
All right, so I think it's going to be, I agree, I think it's going to be close. I don't think it's going to be, I think it's going to be a little bit more than you. I think if my math is correct, it's going to be right around the over-under, depending on what we said it is. I think it's going to be Lions 31, Buccaneers 21. So I think we went by 10, a little more than what you're saying. I just think that Baker's not going to be able to shoulder this entire team throwing to nobodies. So I think the Lions offense has, like we said, a little get right. They're able to move the ball a little bit. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are averaging giving up 25.2 points. I think we pushed that a little bit just because the Chiefs pissed us off a little bit, and we're able to hold them to just 21. So 31-21 is my overall prediction. Let's get into some Tigers talk, huh?
Yeah, let's get into some Tigers talk, man. Before we get into the Tigers, this segment is brought to you by Distill Union. Distill Union crafts sleek, problem-solving essentials like wallets and key organizers, designed with a less is more philosophy. They're durable, intuitive products, simplify everyday routines with style. Our listeners at the Grit Iron Report can get 20% off any product with promo code GRIT. That's promo code GRIT, GRIT, at distillunion.com, DISTIL union.com. Shout out Distill Union. Tigers. Fuck, we talked about this at the beginning of the show, but your Detroit Tigers just lose in just monumental fashion. I mean, it was, you can call it, I mean, it was one of the better, playoff baseball games that I've seen, but, I just don't know how often I can get my heart ripped out in one singular game. But yeah, the Mariners knock off the Tigers in the bottom of the 15th inning on a walk-off to head to the ALCS, and they're playing pretty well now. I think they're up 2-0 on the Blue Jays. But yeah, man, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so back-to-back seasons, Tigers lose in Game 5 of the ALDS. Back-to-back seasons in which Tigers lose Game 5 of the ALDS with Tarik Skubal pitching. It really seemed like both teams wanted to lose this game. When we went from extra inning to extra inning to extra inning, it really just seemed like neither team wanted to win this game. You'd get a guy on and then double play, and then we'd get a guy on and then double play, and it was going back and forth and just terrible at-bats. Overall, I thought we were going to lose by worse to the Mariners. I thought when we got through the Guardians, I thought the Mariners were waiting, and I thought they were going to kind of stomp us. They stomped us during the regular season. They put up like 39 points in 3 games or something like that, something absurd when they beat us during the regular season. So I thought the pitching played really well. The pitching was something we were kind of concerned about. We had obviously an ace, a one pitcher in Skubal. Then you kind of had a B in Casey Mize. I didn't feel super confident about that. But then beyond that, you're like, okay, is then maybe 3 Jack Flaherty? Maybe you don't feel good about that. I don't even know about a 4. So the pitching was really shaky coming into the playoffs. And I thought the pitching was not the reason we lost in the playoffs. Like, the pitching played really, really well. I just have some of our numbers from our postseason stats. So the pitching, postseason pitching wise, we had an overall pitching staff ERA of 2.91. We had 9 home runs given up, 82 strikeouts, and had a 1.06 whip, which is a really, like we've mentioned before, a 1 whip is really good. That's walks, innings, hits.
Walks plus hits per inning.
Yeah, thank you for Help me there. Yeah, exactly. So right around one is really good. If you're below one, that's terrific. Above one is okay. Above like well beyond one, it's not good. So those are really good numbers for pitchers, and that's including Brent Herter, who had 3.2 innings pitched. He gave up 2 home runs and had an ERA of 4.91. So like that's a terrible outing. And Tommy Kahnle, who had 2.1 innings pitched, 2 walks, and had a 3.86 ERA, which in relief is not good. So like all in all, the pitching staff played really well this entire postseason. It's the bats that really let us down. So overall, postseason bats as a team, we averaged a batting average of 0.207, an OPS of 607, 88 strikeouts. So we had 6 more strikeouts than our pitching staff did, 29 walks, and just 6 home runs. Specifically, I will single guys. I was going to say not a single guys out, but just 2 single guys out. Colt Keith finished the postseason with a batting average of 0.67. Wenzel Perez had a batting average of 105. Z-Mac had a batting average of 172. Parker Meadows had a batting average of 138. Torkelson had a batting average of 188. Dylan Dingler had a batting average of 166. That's 7 guys of your core everyday batters who had a below average batting average of 200. Like that cannot happen. That is the reason why we're worried about the pitching. It was the batting that just screwed us.
Yeah, 100%, man. The bats just completely let down. And honestly, a very good performance from your starting pitchers and from your relief pitchers. I mean, like if this team had any kind of bats, they're marching on to the ALCS. And yet, where they stood right now, I don't know how they even made it to Game 5 of the ALDS. Like that team couldn't hit water if it fell out of a boat. Like this, it was so bad. And I will say, out of all the guys that you signaled out there, and I'm glad that you did, because the whole team fucking sucked at the plate. But yeah, I mean, Parker, Colt, when they came up, automatic out. I knew for a fact, like, you might as well not even watch this at bat. Like, these guys are just, they're putting together non-competitive at-bats time and time again. Yeah, Wenzel Perez, same exact thing. At least, like, Z-Mac and Dingler, like, occasionally they came up with with a base knock and had RBIs. And I think, Torque even roped a couple doubles. But, like, overall, man, just so bad. I mean, Riley Green, how many of those 88 strikeouts were Riley Green? Like, just every other time he's at the plate, he's striking out. I swear to God. So yeah, just it was almost unwatchable. It was like, I mean, these guys are just putting us through hell every time that they're at the plate. And like when you're watching postseason baseball, like the only good things that can happen is when your team's at the plate. I didn't even feel that way half the time when the Tigers were at the plate. Like there was half the time we were like texting in our group chat, like, put these guys to fucking bed. Like why are you even trotting out there and still playing this game? You know you're not going to score runs. Like how did you make it this far? Like it was an abomination, man.
I was actively pissed off. And again, this was like 1 a.m. We had to get up at 5 a.m. to go tailgate Michigan State. So like I was actively furious. I was like, please just end this. But would I shock you if I said Riley Green did not lead the team in strikeouts this postseason? He was actually tied for 6th. He had 9 strikeouts throughout the entire postseason. You had Kerry Carpenter and Spencer Torkelson led the way with 11 each. And then you had Gleyber Torres, Dylan Dingler, Parker Meadows, and Zach McKinstry each with 10 each. And then you had Riley with 9. So, like, it was just abysmal. And then the postseason presser, which is, it's a somber, hey, we obviously didn't make it to how far we wanted to. So it's a real sad kind of thing. I thought Scott Harris answered questions pretty well. He was asked about the trade deadline, and he said, talking about pitchers and batters, he does not regret passing up on any of the pitchers that were offered to them. He said, like, the pitchers that we were offered would have included prospects that we're going to be expecting to see, guys on our team that did assist during this postseason. Namely, probably would have been Troy Melton. He was kind of the name that would be thrown in there because at the time he had like 1 or 2 good outings, and he was fantastic. His numbers don't reflect how good he was. I think he was really fantastic in this postseason, so he probably would have been included. So Scott Harris does not regret any of the pitching trades he passed up. Now, when it comes to bats, he was very candid and said, like, maybe we should have got out and got a bat because that obviously would help. So in a sense, that was a little bit refreshing, hearing a little bit, not even accountability, but just being like, we see it. I saw how terrible we were at the plate and how terrible we really were at the plate this entire season, like coming down the stretch, how bad we actually were performing. Now, I do want to say this, Kyle. Actually, I don't even, because it's too hard to guess. I was going to say, guess what our record was when we scored more than 2 runs this season. But it's overall, it's too difficult.
I mean, I'm going to say that the record very good when they score more than 2. I think a lot of their losses are when like the team either gets ghosted or scores 1. So yeah. I would say very good.
Tigers went 83-47 when you scored more than 2 runs. And that is just like you score 2 runs. 2 runs is nothing. 2 runs is like you should wake up and in the first inning have 2 runs. That's absolutely terrible. So it was a little bit refreshing to see Scott Harris say that in the post game or the postseason presser. The other things he did mention, next year he expects the contributors in Double A, I'm doing the air quotes here, contributors in Double A to play a role at the major league level next year. So pretty much all but saying the guys like Kevin McGonigal, Jose Brasuino, and Max Clark will be up at the major league level at some point next year, which is great to hear. Those guys are going to help. Those guys are all guys, at least 2 of them, McGonigal and Clark, are fantastic at not striking out. So hopefully they should take the scales a little bit the other way. So that'll be nice. And then the other big thing is the Tarik Skubal extension. And I'll get into that in a second. But he was asked about it. And he basically was like, I know you have to ask about it, but you also know I can't say anything about it. We're working on it. We obviously want to keep him here as long as we can. We're going to work out, see what's best for him, what's best for us, and we're going to go on our way. So those were the main kind of things to come out of the presser there.
Yeah, and just touching on the guys, the Double A contributors, specifically, yeah, I mean Kevin McGonigal, I'm very excited to see him in a season where, yeah, you had Trey Sweeney play for, I mean,
way too much
of the season at shortstop, and like he might be the worst shortstop in the history of the game. Like just so bad. I don't want to like dog him too much, but he's awful. So yeah, if you can get McGonigal up at some point, I would love to see first half of the season. I think he's too good for him to be like a guy that you bring up, right before playoffs. I think he's a guy who
maybe.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, who knows? But I think you need some contribution out of him during the season. I think he's that good. I mean, he's the reason why he's the number 2 prospect in baseball for a reason. I think he's ready. Max Clark, I think will probably be a little bit later. I don't necessarily see them getting called up at the same time. Although it could happen, but yeah, regardless, those are phenomenal prospects. I think they will contribute a bit, but I also think rookies getting called up. It's going to take time. It might take a couple of years for these guys to really get MLB ready. So that's why you got to continue to make moves, bolster this team that's very much in win now mode. They're in win later mode, of course, because they have a great, a very, very good farm system. But they should be in win now mode because you have one of the best pitchers in baseball. You gotta get him re-signed. I would love to hear your thoughts. What's it gonna take? What's it gonna take to sign Skubal? How much money are we talking?
So I'm glad you did this because I was just about to flip this on you and ask you a very similar question. I talked to you this morning about this, and I want to kind of pose the question here on the show, and so we can put it out on TikTok and get everyone's opinions on that too. You and I talked about he's a Scott Boras client. Scott Boras, if you are not aware, is a major, probably the most prolific MLB agent in baseball. If you are a Scott Boras client, you're going to do multiple things. You're going to demand the moon, and you're going to test free agency in order to get the moon. And Tarik Skubal is a Scott Boras agent. So it's not going to come cheap. He's going to at least field calls from other teams if you let him get there. Obviously, we have Tarik under contract for next year. So the question is not whether he's going to play for us next year. The question is, are we going to let him trade him? First thing, are we going to trade him during this winter? That's your window to trade him. Is you're going to trade him this winter and not have him next year? Are you going to not trade him this winter, let it ride out through the entire season? Like you mentioned, in it to win it, we're going all in with another year Tarik and chance that he's going to leave at the end of next season for nothing? Or are you going to give him, the absolute worlds and give him, that deal that he's expecting and looking for if he even takes it? Like I said, he's probably going to want to try free agency a little bit. So those are the 3 options. It's got to be, at a minimum, you're going to probably, like you and I talked about, it's probably going to be 8 years, $400 million. It's going to be right around like $50 million a year in order to keep him here. Now, I do have a mock trade. I sent you this earlier today, but I want to get your thoughts on the pod on it. The only way I'm doing that is if we can still somehow scrape up the money to go out and add bats in a big time bat like Alex Bregman. And that's obviously going to be huge because you're going to have to open up your checkbook even more, Chris Illich. But I don't want to get him that contract and then just run it back with this same team. I think that's going to be a waste. Or even worse, you let him play out this year without that contract, let him walk at the end of the year and still not have added anyone because this team is not winning the World Series as is. So you either keep him around, you give him that contract, and you sign a big bat like Alex Bregman or someone, Kyle Tucker or someone like that, or you have to trade him at the winter deals. And I hate to say that, but you're just not winning the team with this team that we have here. So if you are going to sign him, you got to go get an expensive bat. So open up the checkbook.
Yeah, and I think it would be such a mistake to to let Skubal walk at any point. Like, yes, obviously I'd rather trade him than let him walk. But either way, I mean, these just generational pitchers, like they don't grow on trees, man. Like if you have a guy like this, I think you have to ride him. And knowing that, yeah, if you want to win in the MLB postseason, like it's not like you need three stud pitchers, but I really do think you need at least one. You need a guy that you can go to, and you know that he's probably going to get that win for you. Obviously, the bats are very important too. We've seen that. We've seen Skubal pitch in the postseason and pitch well and still get the loss because the bats just aren't there. So yes, I completely agree with you. They need to go out and get more bats, and I would love to see a Bregman in donning the old English D. But I think first and foremost, you got to sign Skubal, and you got to sign him now. You had a chance to sign him last year, and it probably would have saved you 50, 60, 70 million versus what he's going to garner now, just because he's shown it again that he is the best pitcher on the planet. So yeah, they already fucked up by not signing him when they could have last year. They need to sign him now. Yeah, just it's almost a blank check. I think probably somewhere along the lines of 9 years, 430 mil, 440 mil is probably going to get it done. If you look at AAV, like that's pushing 50 mil. That's about $49 million per year. Just looking back, pitchers who have almost touched that. I think Scherzer and JV, they both had very similar deals where they got about $44 million per year on a shorter term basis. I think they were both 3-year deals. Excuse me. So yeah, obviously those guys were in their mid-30s when they signed that. Skubal is 29 now, so I think it's going to be a lot longer, 8 years, 9 years, but I still think it's going to be north of 45 mil a year.
So you're paying him the fact that he's already had 2 Tommy Johns. He's, like you said, 29. I think he turns 29 or is turning 30 this November. There's already a talk of a lockout during the 2027 season, meaning he might lose an entire year and he's going to be a little bit older. None of that scares you. You're going to pay the man whatever it takes.
Yeah, I'm going to pay him because, dude, like, this is baseball. There is no salary cap. There's just a luxury tax. So as much as your owner wants to pay, it's not like you're crippling the rest of the team and saying like, if you pay Skubal, now you only have a certain cap left to pay the rest of the guys, like which you see in football when like, you pay your quarterback a ton of money, then you can't have that supporting cast around him. This is not the case here in baseball. Like just fucking spend the money, man. Like just sack up one time, spend the money on a guy, and lock him down long term. Skubal wants to be in Detroit. I know that for a fact. Skubal he doesn't seem like the guy who's going to go and chase an extra like 30 mil to go to the Dodgers or go somewhere. It really seems like he's a guy who wants to stay with a team that invested in his career and just saw a couple Tommy John surgeries and really believed in him. I think he wants to stay here. Just pay him his fucking money.
Yeah, I don't know if I necessarily agree with. I think just because he's got Scott Boras in his ear, they're I don't know. There could be a chance he does just go to the highest bidder, but on the flip side, there's a chance he could end up like a Jake Arrieta and just have like 2 fantastic years being the best pitcher in the entire world, and then never really kind of go to that form ever again. So it's a big question. Before we kind of wrap up here, I do want to just propose the mock trade that I gave you this morning. Again, get your thoughts on it, and then put it out there so we can see what everyone in the Twitter world and TikTok world thinks about it as well. So if we are going to trade Tarik Skubal, like we said, it's probably going to be during the winter meetings, and there's going to be a lot of guys out there. It depends on, you're not sure how much you're going to get from him, but if we call up the Mets and the Mets agree to it, would you trade Tarik Skubal for somebody like Jeff McNeil, Nolan McLean, and Kaysen Benge, or however possibly you say his last name, and then you go out and sign like an Alex Bregman? Like, are you doing that? As opposed to, would you ever think about doing that as opposed to signing Tarik Skubal? Because that brings you, Nolan McLean is a solid young pitcher. I think it's like 23 years old, 24 years old. He's a stud. You still are adding Bregman in there because you're not spending all the money on Tarik. Jeff McNeil is a veteran guy who's a pretty decent bat, and it's the top prospect from the Mets organization. Are you doing something like that? Is that even going to move the needle for you?
I think you at least have to explore it. You have to entertain it. Yeah, Nolan McLean, he's the best, or at least he was the best minor league pitching prospect in the minor leagues. I think he got called up this year, pitched really well for the Mets.
He did.
Down the stretch, obviously the Mets are a dumpster fire. They didn't even make the playoffs. But I don't know, man. It's just that like I love Skubal so much, and I think he's so generational that I mean, even getting the best minor league pitching prospect. And then, yeah, you mentioned the other prospect as well. Yeah, Carson Bench. I don't know, man. Outfielder, it seems like it's not really, a huge position in need, especially considering that, the Tigers have a couple good, outfielders coming up in the minor league system as well. And then Jeff McNeil for me, like, yeah, he's a great player. He doesn't quite move the needle, bit older as well. So I'm probably not making that move, but it's enticing. But I think the move is signing Skubal, still investing in another bat, and yeah, hoping that these minor league guys hit for the Tigers as well. And then you have a really great core for a number of years. I think you're a wagon after that, especially because you can go out and spend more money if you need to. As of right now, I think the Tigers are still maybe like the 16th most expensive payroll in the league. So even factoring a Tarik Skubal into that, like you're probably not even sniffing top 10. So you have room to spend and room to grow. And so I think you go that route.
Yeah, I agree. You have the money, you can do it. Maybe throw in Brett Beatty from the Mets in there, and then we're starting talking another young bat in there. Yeah. The other thing for the Tigers before we wrap up here is AJ Hinch. The extension is official. We mentioned it a few weeks ago. Just the fact that they had talked about it. It was going to be going down during the regular season, but because we were on such a downward slope, they did not want to have that come out while we were struggling so much. So that did get official. The duration and the price of it is not out yet. I don't know why it's actually not out, but it has not been put out. So all right, let's wrap up the show with some Grit of the Week. Grit of the Week is brought to you by Pins and Aces. Pins and Aces is a Colorado-based golf brand making premium polos, head covers, and gear that perform on the course and stand out everywhere else. They are made in the USA with quality you can actually feel. All of our listeners here at the Grit Iron Report can enjoy an exclusive discount using promo code GRIT at pinsandaces.com. That's promo code GRIT, G-R-I-T, for 21% off any product if you're choosing. Grit of the Week. You want to kick us off?
Yeah, this one, man, this one's so hard because of all the pain and misery that we suffered at the hands of Detroit sports, Michigan State sports. Hell, even if you're a Michigan fan, you had some misery this weekend too. My Grit of the Week, though, I'm gonna give it to Jameson Williams, and really, it's for one big play. I thought he did play well against the Chiefs. He played very well. Had a big touchdown, but I thought more important than that, it was just a big bounce back game for JMO. We talked about it, but he had struggled a couple weeks in a row, games where he just wasn't on the same page as Goff, games where he wasn't getting targeted by Goff. So, there's a bunch of things that can factor into something like that with a couple bad games. But I did think, and we talked about it, that the Chiefs game was a huge game for JMO to get right. And I thought he stepped up in the biggest moment and, had a fantastic touchdown. Couple big catches as well, a couple first down. So I just thought overall, I mean, just a great bounce back game for JMO in a spot when he needed it most. So yeah, Grit of the Week, Jameson Williams.
I love that for him. We mentioned calling out Johnny Morton for having fantastic play calls, and then as soon as we dropped that clip, he put up an absolute stinker. Quite the opposite. We put out a clip basically telling everyone to get off JMO's back. He's still doing a lot for this team, and then goes out and just shoves, puts everyone in a locker and has a fantastic game. So I'm really glad for him. He puts in the dirty work, so I'm glad he gets rewarded with big plays like that. Shout out with the Grit of the Week for him. My Grit of the Week is going to be, we just talked about him, the man, the myth, the legend, Tarik Skubal, just because there is a chance in which we saw the last time Tarik Skubal is pitched for the Detroit Tigers. Like we said, there's a chance he could be traded at the winter meetings, meaning he would never pitch for the Detroit Tigers again. Would be very sad, but in his career, he would finish with an 18 WAR. Again, that's wins above replacement, meaning he basically won us 18 total games just by himself. He had an overall win-loss record of 54-37, an ERA of 3.08. I mean, it's 166 innings pitched, and that's with like 2 or 3 years in there when we were a really bad baseball team, and he was still trying to figure himself out, went through Tommy John. So those numbers, I think, are even inflated to what he's been doing the last 2 seasons. The best pitcher in the world for 2 whole years. If that is the last time we've ever seen Tarik Skubal pitch with the Old English Dion, I mean, shout out to one of the best to ever do it here in Detroit.
Man, I hope it's not, man. I can't even picture it. Maybe it's just me, like, not even facing the facts that this could happen, but I can't picture it, can't see it. I think he's here to stay, but if he isn't, yeah, man, just one of the best pitchers in granted 2 years of sample size, 2.5 years, but still I'm putting him in my Mount Rushmore of Detroit pitchers, bar none. Like he's that good, man. So hopefully we see many more starts from Tarik Skubal in the Old English D, but just in case, one more Grit of the Week for you.
Yeah, right. Take it, put it on the shelf, hold it, make it not be the last one, Tarik. Come on, like stay here. We want you to stay here. Come on the show. Let's talk about it. But okay, that's our show. Thank you guys for tuning in this week's episode. You can find both Kyle and I on Twitter at Kyle_Marino and myself at _Tyler. You can follow the podcast itself on Instagram or at TikTok at Gridiron Report, on Twitter at Gridiron Report 1, or you can watch us on YouTube at Gridiron Report. Finally, you can join the conversation next week by calling into the Gridiron Report voicemail for us to play and discuss on the podcast. That phone number is 313-306-7939. And if you like this episode, please take a moment to rate it 5 stars. Leave us a nice review saying so. It helps us spread more Detroit stuff. And follow us on all forms of social media. We're putting out stuff on every single day, daily basis out there. So follow us on all those. Thank you all for listening.
Thanks, y'all. Restore the roar.
A journey, roads paved with fire, sweat, tears, and hustle that never expire. From the rookies on the rise to the old hands retired. Gridiron is the place for fans to conspire. Hustle on, blast beats thunder and loud. Champions are born from the roar of the crowd. The Gridiron Report, where the stories are proud. Tune in, bring the heat, make your fandom a vow.